Hi, everybody. Welcome to Adulting 101. This week, we're going to talk about conflict resolution. We're going to just talk about a couple of ways to manage conflict, kind of address it and work towards a resolution. And it's going to be a conversation. I'm going to discuss some tips, and then I hope you comment down below. So, the first thing when you're looking at resolving conflict, is if you want to do it on your own or if it's to the point where you need a facilitator. On most points, it's going to be between you and the person that the conflict is originating from. So just keep that in mind. So the first thing I just want to go over is conflict is completely natural and it happens in every ongoing relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, whether that be romantic or platonic. It can happen in work situations, it can happen in class situations. Conflict is unavoidable and we must learn to manage it. It's a sign for a need for change and an opportunity for growth, new understanding, and improved communication. Conflict cannot be resolved unless it's addressed with the appropriate individuals. Make sure that you are a calming kind of agent, whether it's you're being a sounding board for a friend or you're dealing with your own conflict. Your response to the conflict can escalate or decrease the intensity of the problem. So just keep that in mind. So we're just going to go over some tips. Not every one of these will be applicable to you. So just think about which ones fits your situation. And how you want to do it moving forward. So the first tip that I do have is I know a lot of times conflict revolves around something that we've had a personal response to, but try your best when addressing the conflict to not get defensive. Try your best to see this other person's perspective and saying like that you understand if you do. Trying really to see that and not get defensive, not shutting down, trying to understand. You do not have to agree with anybody. But these are for conflicts where you want to kind of work through things. When you're working through conflicts, try to avoid the blame game. When you feel under attack, it's really easy to go on the offensive and to go at the other person and kind of pick at them. Instead of doing that, try to avoid blame and establish respect. Making sure that you're actively listening. So trying not to just listen to the other person to look for flaws in what they're saying, but to genuinely hear them out so that you can hear them and listen. The same way you want someone to genuinely hear what you're saying, doing that for them. Work through how you feel, what specific problem is, and what impact you have it's having on you. Use I-based statements, which helps kind of make it so that no one feels like they're being blamed. When you say you, it's really easy to say that you're claiming all the blame on someone else, and it's very easy for them to shut down. So it's better to say, I feel like I'm not being understood versus you aren't listening to what I have to say. You can only speak for yourself and how you are impacted. And by doing this creates a space that has mutual respect. Taking the time to analyze the conflict. This will help clarify the specific problem. So some questions you could ask is what caused this conflict? What are you feeling about it? What are you not getting that you want, if applicable? What are you afraid of possibly losing from this conflict? Um, was your response to this accurate? And how can your conflict be resolved? So again, not all of these are going to apply for all situations, but just thinking about that. It's also important when you're working with other people and looking to resolve things for interactions, picking and choosing your battles. So this is not to say to push everything down, to take everything other people are saying, but to think about something where is this something that you want to have like a mediation for, a conflict kind of conversation for, or if it's something that really doesn't matter that much to you, thinking about that. If it's something that impacts you and is harming you, definitely addressing that. It's also important to take a moment to process your emotions before having that conversation with someone. Speaking in anger isn't helpful. When you speak from emotions, it's really easy to shut down and not be able to move forward. You are absolutely allowed to feel any sort of way that you want to feel. Take that time. If you want to scream, if you want to be upset, if you want to anything you want to do that, but do that by yourself before you have this conversation. Wait to calm down so that you could process your feelings and your reactions. Feel your feelings, then go discuss it. When you're calm and rational, it's easier to make your own points and to be open to someone else's perspective. This one can be really challenging, specifically if it feels more personal. Um, Try to separate the person from the problem. View the person as a specific behavior View the problem as a specific behavior or set of circumstances rather than attributing negative feelings to the whole person. This approach makes the problem more manageable and is helpful when you decide you can't stand the person any longer. So trying to separate that for certain things, I know that it's definitely more challenging, but that's why it's important to decide what you want from the situation. Do you want to resolve the conflict or do you not? And if you don't, you wouldn't really need to separate the person from the problem if you're not able to do that. Um, when looking for a resolution, showing that you can compromise. So come to an acceptable agreement to move forward. You can still think that you're right in some ways, but showing others that you're willing to put their feelings into consideration. For certain circumstances, agree to disagree. So each person has their unique point of view, and you're not always going to agree on every detail, but being right isn't what's important. It's managing conflict so that you can address a place where you both feel comfortable. For example, consider um, everyone has a different perspective and a different thing of how they view a situation. The truth can be relative to a person's point of view. Again, don't compromise with something that you are not comfortable with. If you're coming to a compromise, it should be an equal give and take, so that both parties come to an equal agreement. But if it's not something, don't compromise saying, okay, we can do this if it's not something that you had genuinely have any intention of doing, or you feel comfortable with. Again, conflict resolution only works if you want to resolve things with that person. This is really challenging. A lot of times when we're frustrated, our first response is to want to talk to other people about it because we just want to get it all out. Making sure that you're only talking to like certain people who you trust or someone who doesn't know that other person. Try not to badmouth others. Try not to avoid spreading conflict details around. It's only going to hurt them, and then they're only going to respond by wanting to speak out their side. And it's going to be a back and forth. You get to debrief, you get to talk to somebody, but try to maybe make it a person who's not involved in the situation. Because then it will be difficult to resolve that conflict if the trust and respect isn't there. Again, trying not to take it personally. For certain things, absolutely, it's hard to not do that. But if you can take a step out of it when someone disagrees with you, it's not a personal attack, and it doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. So if you live with someone and they are not, you share a room with them and they're not keeping the room clean and they're not doing this, it may feel like a personal attack because you feel disrespectful or disrespected, and you're really frustrated, but it's not something that's personally done to you. They're not doing it as a personal attack towards you, but again, processing your feelings first. Also, when you're having these conversations, paying attention to nonverbal communication. Is someone shutting down? Are they receptive to what's happening? um, a lot of times it can be good when you're active listening to nod, to show the other person that you're hearing what they're saying. But realizing that like nonverbal communication is very important, and you could be saying all the right things, but if you're rolling your eyes the entire time, even if that's like your defense mechanism, um, people maybe not open to that. Whereas sometimes when people get really uncomfortable, they laugh. And that doesn't mean that they're laughing at the situation. It's just kind of like they're in an uncomfortable situation and that's a response. So just addressing those things and moving forward. Sometimes in certain situations, um, you want to prioritize resolving the conflict over being right. It's okay to admit that maybe you were at fault for something, or you, even though it was more on the other person, like you could have addressed it differently. Um, you might think that someone isn't fair or something is wrong. You can easily get frustrated, but usually it has nothing to do with you or it's not about you. Yes, you can be right, but think about how you want to move forward. Know when you want to move forward, and focus on the present, not the past. Conflicts can get really personal and it may bring up past actions. Try really hard not to use past conflicts as a weapon. Something that I do is the 48-hour rule, where you take 48 hours to kind of like sit with it, process it, decide how you want to move forward. And if after 48 hours you don't want to speak to the person about it and you're not addressing it, drop it so that you're not moving forward later. If it's something that's impactful for that, where it was something that happened that now is being connected to that, that's different. But don't bring up past actions because that's going to feel like an attack to that person. Um, and they weren't given a chance to kind of discuss it with you previously. Focus on the future. We tend to remember every single thing that bothers us about a person, but when we're in conflict, it's often we find the need to want to vent about the past and dwell on it. But the best way to do things and move forward is take ownership of the problem, recognize that regardless of the past, you need to create a plan to address like the present conflict and those that may arise in the future. So if you're living with someone processing that, you also need to decide for yourself, what outcome do you want? If you're done with a person or if they've done something that you don't think that you can move past, that's okay. You don't have to. But for certain situations, if it's a living arrangement or if it's a work situation or class situation, you may have to manage that conflict. You can't always just cut people off. So thinking about kind of how to manage it, finding a way where can feel comfortable, and if you don't feel comfortable doing that, finding someone who can be an equal grounds facilitator. So not someone who is your best friend you're going to bring in to facilitate the conversation and to mediate, because while they may want to be objective, they're always going to have your best interests in heart. You want to find someone who's going to be fair ground for both you and the other party. Um, you want to move forward for it, like, and also decide the importance of that relationship. If it is for in terms of friendship, if someone has done something to repeatedly hurt you, you've had conversations and then they did something very major, making that decision of, for you, what's your best process moving forward, how you want to address it and how you want to kind of go forward. If you value the friendship or the relationship, you want to discuss it, so that you can come to a middle ground, or find some sort of resolution, whether that's someone being like, you know what, I didn't realize that that impacted you the way that it did, or not. But then again, it's very important. I know a lot of times we shy away from conflict because we don't want there to be problems. We kind of avoid it, but you can't grow without addressing things, and nothing is going to be completely perfect, so you want to definitely address those issues and move forward. So take some time to think about what's the best way that you want to approach conflict. Um, what are some things that you want from the problem to be solved? Um, and how can you positively do this moving forward? It would be great if someone commented below, letting me know how you address conflict, but that's all I have for you all this week. I hope that you have a great week, hopefully not very conflict filled, but as we get towards the end of the semester, there are a lot of things and a lot of stressors. So I hope that this was helpful for conflict resolution and just kind of ways to interact with others, keeping in mind that we all have our own stuff going on, and we all have our own perspectives. So keeping that in mind and active listening is so important. Have a great day.